6 people are dead in Clay County after a Friday night mass shooting. That suspect now in custody. And the sheriff tells us that those victims were killed in 4 separate locations.
It's just not a happening chance. You've got a family member actually murdering his family.
Chaos and sadness have overcome the Clay County community after a Friday night mass shooting claimed the lives of 6 people. 24-year-old Daricka Moore, now the suspect in this case. 4 of those victims are family members of his.
His father, his brother, and his uncle, and the 7-year-old child is actually going to be his second cousin. So that's 4 family members.
Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott says the initial call came in around 7 p.m. After 4 hours of extensive searching, they were able to find and arrest Moore. The sheriff says Moore was driving a vehicle that he had stolen from one of the people he killed. Sheriff Scott says situations like this one can shake up any community.
We're a small community, and it's just like anywhere across the country with this type of gun violence. I mean, it rattles you. It rattled our community.
Scott says Moore is charged with murder, but more charges are expected.
Yo, man, you killed 6 people?
Huh?
Did you kill 6 people, sir?
No.
Huh?
13. They just...
You killed 13?
13 people.
Okay. Why'd you do it?
The 7 of my... Dude.
On January 9th, 2026, law enforcement agencies in Clay County, Mississippi were confronted with a rapidly unfolding situation involving multiple homicide scenes spread across rural areas of the county. What initially appeared to be a single shooting quickly expanded into a complex investigation involving 6 deceased victims, 3 locations, and 1 suspect known personally to several of the victims. Over the course of several hours, investigators worked to reconstruct a timeline that would later form the basis of one of the most serious criminal cases in the county's history. The suspect, Daricka Moore, was taken into custody the same night. As details emerged through court documents, affidavits, and official statements, the scope of the case widened, raising questions about motive, movement between scenes, and the legal consequences that would follow. This is Facebook Crime. We deliver clear, factual, and up-to-date true crime stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed on the latest cases and investigations. Glenn Moore was a longtime resident of Clay County and the father of the suspect. He lived on a rural property along David Hill Road. Records and statements from acquaintances describe him as someone who maintained close ties to family members who lived nearby. At the time of his death, he was residing in a mobile home where the first shooting occurred. Quentin Moore, Glenn Moore's son and Daricka Moore's brother, was present at the same residence on the evening of January 9th. He was the registered owner of a Ford F-150 pickup truck later identified as being taken from the scene. Quentin Moore's daily routine often involved assisting family members and traveling between relatives' homes within the county. Willie Gawines, an uncle of the suspect, was also present at the David Hill residence. His connection to the Moore family extended through long-standing familial ties common in the area, where extended families often live within close proximity. McKillia Gawines was a second cousin of the suspect. She lived with her immediate family at a separate residence on Blake Road. At the time of the incident, multiple family members were inside the home. Court documents indicate that she was a minor with no involvement in any dispute connected to the suspect. Barry Bradley was a local pastor, and Samuel Bradley was his brother. The 2 men were found deceased at a 3rd location on Siloam Griffith Road. The property was associated with church activity and community gatherings. Both men were known within the local religious community and had no documented conflicts with the suspect prior to the incident. Daricka Moore was 24 years old at the time of the incident. He was a resident of Clay County and had long-standing familial connections to several of the victims. Public records indicate no extensive prior criminal history involving violent felonies. Court filings later referenced concerns regarding Moore's mental state, prompting a court-ordered mental health evaluation. However, at the time of arrest, authorities stated that Moore was capable of following commands and did not resist apprehension. At approximately 6:56 p.m., emergency dispatch received reports of gunfire in a rural area near David Hill Road. Deputies responding to the scene discovered 3 deceased individuals inside and around a mobile home. The victims were later identified as Glenn Moore, Quinton Moore, and Willie Ed Gwines.
WTVA 9 News begins now with breaking news.
Really looked at. If he's eligible for the death penalty, the district attorney's office is going to go for the death penalty. There's some cases just that they've got to get the worst punishment. They've got to get the worst punishment.
Heartbreak in Clay County tonight. 6 people murdered, 3 different crime scenes. A family executed in cold blood by one of their own. This is the 3rd mass shooting in Clay County since 2023 and one of Mississippi's deadliest mass shootings in recent history. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Emily Leonard. We have a lot of new information to share with you tonight. Some of it is disturbing. All of it is just heartbreaking. Let's get to the very latest information. This is the man investigators say is responsible for the violence and the bloodshed. 24-year-old Daricka Moore. He's behind bars tonight, accused of murdering 6 people. 4 of Moore's victims were his own family. One of the victims was a 7-year-old girl. Moore will go before a judge in Clay County Monday. He is charged with first-degree murder, but we expect that charge to be upgraded to capital murder within the next 48 hours. We have team coverage tonight on this shooting rampage and a special edition of WTVA 9 News. Our Michelle Martin interviewed Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott earlier today. Tanaya McQueen has an exclusive interview with the mother of one of the victims, and Wayne Herford is also in Clay County. He spoke with the members of the community about this tragedy. Let's first go to Michelle, who has all of the details on what happened Friday night.
Yeah, Emily, Sheriff Eddie Scott and his team of investigators have investigated a lot of horrible crimes over these years, but this one has to be the most disturbing case that has ever happened in this community. This is just something that investigators in the community say that they're just struggling to grasp and understand how this level of violence can happen in their own backyard. This violent rampage happened on Friday night. This all happened in several locations near West Point. The area is in the Griffith and Cedar Bluff communities. 24-year-old Daricka Moore is first accused of killing 3 relatives inside of a home on David Hill Road. The victims were essentially executed, all of them shot in the head. The sheriff says Moore killed his father, Glenn Moore, his brother, Quinton Moore, and then his uncle, Willie Gwines. Moore then stole a truck and drove to another home on Blake Road. It was there, deputies say, Moore forced his way inside. The sheriff says Moore tried to sexually assault someone in that home, and then he shot and killed, allegedly, a 7-year-old girl. That girl was Moore's cousin. Moore took off traveling to a 3rd location on Siloam Griffith Road. When investigators arrived there, they found the stolen truck hidden behind the house, signs of forced entry, and then 2 more victims inside, 2 men shot in the head. The victims were identified as Barry Bradley and Samuel Bradley. One of them was a well-known pastor. Moore was caught and taken into custody at a roadblock. He is charged with first-degree murder. What investigators still don't know and what continues to just trouble this community is why.
This guy has not been on our radar. We have not had any reports, anything prior leading up to this. So what his state of mind was, what was going on with him, that's part of the investigation right now.
You know, this is the type of case where the death penalty is going to have to be really looked at. If he's eligible for the death penalty, the district attorney's office is going to go for the death penalty. There's some cases just that they've got to get the worst punishment. They've got to get the worst punishment. 6 people, one night, several different scenes. You've heard the allegations. They're about as bad as it gets.
Daricka Moore will have a preliminary hearing on Monday in West Point. Sheriff Eddie Scott says those charges will be upgraded to capital murder. Coming up here shortly, I will be talking to Sheriff Eddie Scott live to talk about what's moving forward with this case and what is planning to get justice for the families that are involved. Live in Clay County, Michelle Martin, WTVA 9 News.
Initial evidence indicated that multiple gunshots had been fired. Investigators later stated that both a rifle and handgun were believed to have been used. Ballistics evidence would later link this scene to subsequent locations. Following the shootings, investigators believe Daricka Moore took Quinton Moore's Ford F-150 pickup truck and left the property. Cell phone data, witness statements, and traffic patterns were used to establish Moore's movement after leaving David Hill Road. The route connected rural roads leading toward Blake Road, approximately several miles away. Law enforcement later confirmed that the vehicle taken from the first scene was observed traveling in that direction shortly after the initial shootings. At Blake Road's residence, Moore is alleged to have forced entry into the home. Court affidavits state that multiple individuals were present inside the residence at the time. According to charging documents, Moore attempted to commit sexual battery during the intrusion. During the incident, Makilia Gwines was shot and killed. Witness statements indicate that other children were present in the home during the shooting.
Investigators also allege that Moore threatened another child with a firearm before leaving the residence. The scene was later secured by law enforcement, and forensic teams documented ballistic evidence consistent with the weapon types used at the first location. After leaving Blake Road, Moore allegedly traveled to a third location associated with church property. At this site, Barry Bradley and Samuel Bradley were found deceased from gunshot wounds. The timing of the shootings suggested a continuous sequence rather than isolated incidents. Ballistics analysis later connected shell casings and bullet fragments from all three scenes. At approximately 11:24 p.m., Mississippi Highway Patrol officers encountered the suspect at a roadside safety checkpoint. The vehicle matched the description of the truck taken from the first scene. Moore was taken into custody without incident. Officers recovered firearms from the vehicle, which were later submitted for forensic testing. He was transported to the Clay County Jail, where he was held without bond following an initial court appearance. The response involved multiple agencies, including Clay County Sheriff's Office, Mississippi Highway Patrol, and Mississippi Bureau of Investigation. Due to the number of scenes, investigators faced challenges in preserving evidence while coordinating simultaneous forensic examinations. Each location was treated as a separate homicide scene while being analyzed as part of a single continuous event. Public statements from law enforcement emphasized the ongoing nature of the investigation and the absence of a confirmed motive. Ballistics testing confirmed that the same weapons were used across multiple scenes. Autopsy reports established gunshot wounds as the cause of death for all 6 victims. Investigators examined weapon ownership records, gunshot residue evidence, witness statements from surviving occupants, vehicle tracking and movement timelines. These findings were consolidated into affidavits supporting multiple felony charges. Prosecutors filed a total of 11 charges against Daricka Moore, including multiple counts of capital murder, first-degree murder, attempted murder of a child, attempted sexual battery, burglary, motor vehicle theft. The severity of the charges reflected both the number of victims and the alleged sequence of events. Moore entered a plea of not guilty. The court denied bond, citing the nature of the offenses and public safety concerns. A mental health evaluation was ordered to determine competency to stand trial. Prosecutors stated their intent to seek the death penalty if Moore is found competent. Preliminary hearings and motions were scheduled as the case moved through the judicial process. Following the incident, schools and churches in the area adjusted schedules to accommodate community meetings and counseling services. Law enforcement increased patrols in rural areas as a precaution. Fundraising efforts were organized to assist surviving family members with funeral expenses. Officials emphasized that community safety had been restored following the suspect's arrest. As of the latest court filings, no definitive motive has been publicly established. The results of the mental health evaluation remain pending. Trial dates have not yet been finalized. Investigators continued to review evidence while preparing for potential capital proceedings. The Daricka Moore case represents a rare multi-scene homicide investigation in rural Mississippi, involving family members, a child victim, and individuals with no known connection to the suspect beyond proximity. As the case progresses through the legal system, it remains centered on reconstructing intent, responsibility, and accountability within the framework of criminal law. Thanks for watching. Did you find this case informative? If you want more true crime stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.